Now on News 13, Myrtle Beach prepares to go back to the polls to select a mayor for the next 4 years. What issues do you care about most? Crime? Growth? Tourism? Homelessness? Election day is now just days away. And to get you ready, WBTW News 13 hosts the 2021 Myrtle Beach Mayoral Debate, starting now.
And thanks so much for joining us. I'm Bob Juback with you. I want to mention first up, Wheel of Fortune can be seen right now at channel 13.2. And tonight I'll be the moderator for this debate aimed at helping you decide who to vote for on November the 2nd. We'll get to the candidates in just a moment, but first, here are the qualifications for our debate. First of all, a candidate must be a legally qualified candidate listed on the ballot for the mayoral race. A candidate must have accepted at least $5,000 in campaign contributions overall, and at least $2,500 of that amount must have been from Myrtle Beach. Of the 5 mayoral candidates, 3 qualify for the debate tonight. All 3 are here tonight. Seating was determined by a random drawing earlier. From left to right, we have Bill McClure, we have Jean Ho, and we have Brenda Bethune. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer a question. Any candidate, though, mentioned during an answer will have 30 seconds to respond in the order that they were mentioned. So right now, let's meet each candidate. Mr. Bill McClure and his wife moved to Myrtle Beach full-time 7 years ago. He came down from the Washington, D.C. area, where after working in government jobs, was a successful and pioneering manager for a string of auto malls. Mr. McClure is a veteran of the U.S. Army, and he served our country in Vietnam, and we appreciate that. Mr. Ho is a successful photographer who moved to Myrtle Beach when he was only 18 years old and built his business from basically nothing. Mr. Ho got the chance also to be a photographer for the Trump campaign in 2016, and he also wrote a book, a best-selling book, Trumpography, chronicling the president and what it was like out on the campaign trail. And Ms. Bethune is the incumbent mayor of Myrtle Beach, winning the office in a runoff in 2017 against longtime incumbent, the late John Rhodes. Ms. Bethune was born and raised in Myrtle Beach and is a successful local business person. That includes serving as owner and CEO of Better Brands, a beverage distributor. Right now it's time for our first question that will go to Mr. McClure. And Mr. McClure, what in your opinion is the biggest issue Myrtle Beach faces and how would you fix it?
Bob, first of all, thank you for and WTBW for hosting this. There are a number of big issues. There's not just one. But one that's really on my mind is what I call uncontrolled growth. And by that, I mean we're just clear-cutting land. I do not believe the infrastructure is set up to support the growth now. It certainly isn't set up to support the growth in the future. And having said that, there are a number of other issues. And to put everything into context, my campaign is based on 3 core points. 1 is putting our citizens first, 2 is putting our neighborhoods first, and 3 is putting our small businesses first. So that's what I believe we need to do, and that would be the first 3 things I'd be looking at as mayor.
Mr. Ho, the same question. What in your opinion is the biggest issue that Myrtle Beach faces and how would you fix it?
The biggest issue that Myrtle Beach faces right now is to make this into a family-friendly beach again. And I just want to say something, Mr. McClure, from yesterday's debate, you never speak about my children in your voice ever again. You don't talk about where they live, and you don't give my address out to the public in a debate. It's a family beach. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it safe, and that's the #1 issue here.
And you're referring to something Mr. McClure said at an NAACP debate.
At the NAACP debate, he could apologize right now or however he wants to do it, but you never speak about my children, where they sleep ever again.
Mr. McClure, can you want to respond?
Gene, all I can say to you is small minds do small things.
Gene?
Good enough for me. You know what? Right there, he listened to what I say here. He could talk about me all day long. He could talk about the issues. I actually like Brenda. She had some great points last night. She did it phenomenal. But my thing is we stick to the issues here and you don't bring up my family.
Ms. Bethune, what do you think is the biggest issue Myrtle Beach faces and how would you fix it?
Thank you, Bob. I think a lot of the issues, I don't think it's one issue, but I think there are issues that snowball off of each other. And we have a crime perception. Let's not bury our heads in the sand and pretend that we do not have a crime perception, and I'll talk about that more later. But we also have an issue right now, especially post-COVID, with an increase in homelessness, an increase in opioid addiction. And those are things that are sometimes interrelated. So I think those are three major things that we need to focus on collectively and not within a bubble, because they affect so many things.
Mr. McClure, we're going to talk about homelessness right now. Do you think it's a major problem in Myrtle Beach, and how would you fix it?
I do think it's a major problem in Myrtle Beach, and I'm not sure what the exact fix is. I think you have to look at what are the core reasons that we have homeless people, and they are a number of different reasons. One is involuntary. People are just homeless. They didn't mean to be. Others have to do with the opioid addiction. Others have to do with a lack of education and a place to go. So we have already programs in the city that we can use. I would want to enhance those programs, and that's what I would do. I don't see any reason to add any other programs. I believe that there are enough programs in the city right now that have been in existence even before Mayor Bethune took office. So I believe that's what we would focus on.
Mr. Ho, what about homelessness?
Thank you, Bob. And here's the thing with homelessness. I get it, and there are federal programs that can be used for helping the homeless. But my job as mayor is to make sure that this area is clean and it's safe. The thing is, we cannot have the homeless, such as in Withers Wash, where they're actually sleeping there at night, or in Chapin Park. My idea as mayor, I get it. I'm all for programs to help them, and I hope that federal funds can be used to do that. But my job as mayor is to do one thing, to make these streets safe and clean. And to do that, we have to get rid of the homeless problems. We have to move them out of the city.
Ms. Bethune, back in 2017, you and I sat down. You said you were passionate about creating change and being a catalyst for change in Myrtle Beach. Have you done that?
Yes, I have. I made very specific promises 4 years ago and kept every single one. But Bob, I want to go back to homelessness real quick because I didn't really have an opportunity to answer that. Because I agree with Mr. McClure. You have to, first of all, understand what the issues are. With homelessness, there's also drug and alcohol addiction. Sometimes it's a lack of a family support system, lack of the ability to get an ID to get a job. So we have to look at all of this holistically and humanize it, not criminalize it. And some of the ways we've done that is with our homeless court, which gives someone who has habitual arrests, if they are homeless, to expunge their record, if they agree to go through a program to give them a pathway to transition. And that's so important because a lot of times they don't have the tools that they need to make that transition themselves. We now have the Homeless Coalition that Chief Prock is in charge of with over 40 organizations. And it really is about the community coming together, all of these organizations, to work on this as one.
Thank you, Ms. Bethune. She mentioned you, Mr. McClure. Do you want to add anything else to the homeless situation?
Actually not. I think the programs exist. I think we can expand upon them. Mentioned, what our police chief is doing, and we work within those guidelines. We have the programs in place. It's just a matter of enhancing them and moving forward with them.
Does Myrtle Beach have a crime problem, in your opinion?
It does. It does. It does. The latest statistics that we've heard is that crime is down in Myrtle Beach by somewhere between 13 and 14%. But I think what we really have to look at is the core issues of crime. We still have crime here. You can look at the FBI statistics, but then you look at other statistics where they say that Myrtle Beach might be number 3 or number 4 worst in crime for size of city anywhere in the nation. You've got to look at what is the core reason for crime, and once you do that, then you can start to attack it with the right programs. The other thing that you have to look at is that what is crime in one area doesn't necessarily exist in another area of the city, and that's why I'm a real big fan of community-oriented policing, which means you put police in areas where they need to be, they work with the community, they work collaboratively with the community to solve the problems together.
Mr. Ho, does Myrtle Beach have a crime problem, and how would you fix it if you think it does?
Myrtle Beach has a crime problem, and the thing is, you can tell of our reputation, people calling this Dirty Myrtle and Myrtle Beach. I have a program, and it's a copy of other people that have been successful. In Boston, they had the Bureau of Community Involvement. I'm going to implement the same program they did in Boston and implement it here. The other thing, in New York, they have a program called CompStat. But the main thing with all of this is we need to get a control of the crime here. And very interestingly enough, North Myrtle Beach, which is almost the same like in this area, has done wonderfully in crime. It's just a matter of implementing those programs here.
Ms. Bethune, what about the crime issue? How would
We do
you
have
fix it?
crime. Yes, every city has crime. And right now, gun violence and crime are at an all-time high. First of all, to compare Myrtle Beach to North Myrtle Beach is not an apples-to-apples comparison. We have over 180,000 hotel rooms in the city of Myrtle Beach, over 20 million visitors. North Myrtle Beach does not have that. And when you look at the crime stats, yes, there are different stats. Does one report show that we're the third worst in the nation? It does, but you have to factor in that those stats are based on our permanent population of 30,000 people, not on our average daily population of over 160,000 people. That does not minimize the fact that, yes, we do have crime, and yes, we are addressing it. By adding more police officers, we've added more than 30 police officers in the past 4 years. We've increased the budget to the police department by over $3 million the past 4 years, and we will continue to do so. It's things like increasing pay to the police, doing the police deployment and rate study plan. All of these things work together to address crime.
Ms. Bethune didn't actually say your name, but she referenced your correlation between Myrtle Beach and North Myrtle Beach. Would you like to respond, Mr. Ho?
Bottom line is this, my campaign promise through all this whole thing is just one thing. I will be a success or failure as mayor on 1 point and 1 point alone. And not only that, I'm not even saying it's going to take 4 years to do it. I'm saying it's going to take about a year to fix this. My thing is one thing, fixing the crime, fixing the reputation of this area. If I can do it, I'll be known as the best mayor in this area ever. And the thing is, I think it's a problem, and it's a perception problem, and we all know it. People know that there's a problem with crime in Myrtle Beach.
I-73, Mr. McClure, do we need it?
We do. We absolutely need I-73. The big question is, and it's on not just the city of Myrtle Beach's mind, but our other municipalities around us, is how do you pay for it appropriately? But I would like to point out that I-73 sets up the catalyst to bring other industrial investments into the Grand Strand area. It also sets up, if you think about it, you know, we're just getting through hurricane season, and if you look, you go down to Charleston, they evacuate in maybe a day or day and a half because they have the roads to get out. But here in Myrtle Beach, if we've got a Cat 2 hurricane or Cat 3 hurricane coming in, we might have to start evacuating in 4 days. That means businesses have to shut down earlier than they would in other jurisdictions. The jobs that I'm talking about that I believe industry would bring in are really good paying jobs. I'm not talking about $15 an hour. I'm talking about $30, $40 an hour jobs. And if you're a captain of industry, you need to have those roads before you can put your business in this area.
Mr. Ho, I-73, should Myrtle Beach help pay for that?
You know what? I am all for I-73. The problem is basically this, how to pay for it. And the thing is, it seems the current structure before it got shot down with Horry County, it seems to be a misappropriation of funds because I believe that it was the ARPA funds that was going to go pay for it. And the ARPA funds are needed to go into the sewer system to update that. So I have no problem with I-73. I don't think anyone does with I-73. The problem is how to pay for it. And if we could figure out how to pay for it without being on the back of our local taxpayers, it would be wonderful.
Ms. Bethune, I-73, does Myrtle Beach need it, and will Myrtle Beach help pay for it?
We absolutely need it, and our council has been committed to helping to fund I-73 because we have to expand our industrial base, and the only way to do that is to have an interstate connection. But the other reason, Bob, is hurricane evacuation. We saw with Hurricane Florence, when Highway 501 was flooded, we were literally meeting every single day with SCDOT, with the governor's office, with others, to try to figure out how to get food, gasoline, medical supplies to this area, depending on how long that bridge was going to be out. So we need it as a lifeline. But how do we pay for it? I have asked the state, I've asked our state representatives, the governor, I've brought it up locally, that it be a toll road. Let the users pay for it. The visitors who come here, that drive, over 80% of our visitors drive here, come from areas that do have toll roads. And I think that's the best way to fund this project.
Thank you, Ms. Bethune. We're going to take a break right now. Our Myrtle Beach mayoral debate continues right here on WBTW in just a moment.
Oh, you're changing the whole thing.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Go for it. Alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome back to WBTW's 2021 Myrtle Beach mayoral debate. We're going to continue with the next question right now to Bill McClure. And Mr. McClure, both candidates who aren't here, Tammy Durant and C.D. Rosa, have said they are the candidates for the poor people, those in the middle class, those that don't have a voice. They think that those folks have very little power, especially when you compare them with the big money interest in the city. Do you agree with that? If you do, why? If you don't, why?
I do agree with that. I absolutely do agree with that. As I've spent the last 8 weeks traveling throughout the city of Myrtle Beach, whether you're in the north end, in the center of the city, or if you're down in Market Common, if you're in Seagate Village, the one constant thing that I hear from our citizens is that they feel they just don't have a voice in City Hall.
And would you give them that?
Absolutely. I would be their voice in City Hall.
Mr. Hone, what about it?
I appreciate that, and actually spending the time the last few weeks with them, they are wonderful people, both of them. And here's the thing, I'm all for listening to the people, and the way I'm gonna do it is by having monthly town halls. So basically in every community, I'm gonna go there and then have a town hall so I could hear how we're doing, if we're doing good, not doing good, and understand with these people, talking to them and finding out what their voice is. So very succinctly, it's going to happen by me being out there and talking to them.
Ms. Bethune, are there people that don't have a voice? And if you think that there are, how would you give them that voice?
I think there are always people who feel they don't have a voice, and that's the issue that needs to be addressed. I don't believe in leading behind a desk. I believe that you get out in the community, you meet people, you interact with people, you understand their issues. I've spent the past 4 years doing that. I attend our neighborhood watch meetings. We have over 35 neighborhood watch groups throughout this city, and everyone is welcome to attend those meetings, and that's exactly what they're designed for. Those meetings are designed for the residents to come in and interact with the police department, the fire department, learn about what's really happening in their neighborhoods, and to have that interaction with the mayor and city council as well. Could we do a better job? Absolutely. But I believe that we do a very good job of being out in every community through our neighborhood watch meetings and other events.
Mr. McClure, how would you work to keep or make Myrtle Beach affordable for the residents in the city and the surrounding areas with all this growth going on?
Bob, that is a very, very difficult question, because with the growth that we have, and as it comes so quickly, it's going to present a challenge that, quite frankly, other than some talk about maybe some affordable housing downtown, is going to be very difficult to balance. The latest statistics tell us that by the year 2025, only 4 years from now, that the city of Myrtle Beach is going to go from 35,000 individuals to somewhere like 50,000 individuals. So my question is, where are these people going to live? How are we going to have the infrastructure to support them? And how are we going to do that without raising taxes and putting it on the backs of our citizens? So the answer to the question is, it's difficult, and we're going to have to look at it, but I don't have a clear answer for you. I don't have a solution for you right this minute, but I guarantee you, as mayor, we would have a solution.
Mr. Ho, I want to ask you about a recent Rolling Stone article that came out about your connection to QAnon. Do you believe those theories? And if so, how would that influence your policy as mayor of Myrtle Beach?
Here's the thing with those articles and the things about QAnon. I spent the last 2 and 3 years on a book tour. During that time, I probably did about 150 to 200 events. Out of those events, 3, maybe 2 or 3 were QAnon events. I tell you what, the Q community are some of the most nicest people that I know of, and I love them. But the thing is, to attribute the whole belief system of everything based upon 2 or 3 events that I did, I think is stretching.
Ms. Bethune, what are you most proud of in your 4 years in office?
My hard work. You mentioned affordable housing, workforce housing. That's an initiative that we started 2 years ago, and actually started a fund for that. And there are some very successful models across the nation that we've been studying. And Mr. McClure, to your point, how do we pay for it? A lot of these workforce housing developers and investors, they have the models built already. It's about attracting the right investors and developers here. I'm proud of the way that I represented this city at some of the most stressful times that we've ever had, through COVID recovery, through riots that were going on across this nation and were on their way here. The way that we handled that, the way that we've handled race relations, I think is very crucial. And the way that we handled recovery after COVID. And to me, a leader is about their demeanor. My demeanor has to be such that I am the ambassador of the city regardless of how I'm feeling at all times.
All right, is Myrtle Beach growing too fast, Bill? Getting back to some of that growth question.
Oh, yes. Without question, Myrtle Beach is growing too fast.
Would you try to curb it?
Everything's on the table. Everything would be on the table. My big concern in terms of that growth, not just the biggest concern, but one of the biggest concerns is that we don't really have the infrastructure to sustain the growth over the next 4 to 5 years. Let me give you one example of where we are right now. In the city of Myrtle Beach, we have one hospital. It has 371 beds. Latest census says we have 35,000 full-time residents here. And if you divide 371 into 35,000, that's going to tell you that you have 1 bed for every 94 citizens. As Mayor Bethune pointed out, though, once you put another 100,000 plus people on top of that in any given day in any given month, that really is setting up a recipe for a potential disaster. Yes, you can go down to you can go up to Conway Medical Center, you can go to Georgetown, you can go up to North Myrtle. The problem there is they have limits also.
All right. He mentioned you, Ms. Bethune.
Yes.
Is it? Do you want to curb growth in Myrtle Beach?
We have to have smart and balanced growth. And we need younger people to want to live here, work here, and invest here. And that's part of the downtown master plan, what that is designed for. But Mr. McClure mentioned the hospitals, and we have been blessed to have so many new hospitals open in the area. But one thing that I have learned these past 4 years is that any new hospital beds, any new proposed hospitals have to be approved on a state level. That's not something that a hospital system can just come in and say, we want to build 700 more beds. It's not that easy. But it's about controlled and balanced growth.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Bethune. We are right now at the time for our closing statements, and we're going to have the first closing statement. You get 1 minute. Bill McClure.
Thank you, Bob. My platform, again, is putting our citizens, our neighborhoods, and our small businesses first. And when I say that, I'm addressing the people in the north end, in the middle of the city, down in the Market Common area, Seagate Village, I stand with you. Withers Swash, we know that you are suffering down there. We know that that park down there that is owned by the city every night is riddled with drug traffic, prostitution, and crime. I will be putting our citizens, our neighborhoods, and our small businesses first and implementing the programs that will do that to serve everyone.
Thank you, Mr. McClure. Jean Ho, you have 1 minute for a closing statement.
You know, it's really very simple. It's all very much all about crime and safety. My whole thing boils down to one thing. I am going to make Myrtle Beach safe, and I'm going to make it safe in a very, very short period of time. And the thing about it is, we're going to do it together. We're going to have the residents work together, but we're going to change the reputation of Myrtle Beach. We're going to make this a great place to live, and we're going to make it a nice and friendly family beach like we remembered it.
Ms. Bethune, you have 1 minute for a closing statement.
I want to continue my role as mayor because I've worked hard for this entire city. And we have a great city. We have a great story to tell. If we weren't a great city, we wouldn't have so many people wanting to move here. But we still have a lot of work to do. But we're headed in the right direction. And I am a focused leader. I have the vision, the determination, and the relationships to help this city continue to progress the way that we need to and grow in the way that we need to.
Ms. Bethune, thank you very much. As we've mentioned, there are 5 Myrtle Beach mayoral candidates this year. Here are the 3 that you just heard from. You have Jean Ho, you have Brenda Bethune, who is the incumbent, and also Bill McClure. Here are the other 2 candidates, Tammy B. Durant and C.D. Rosa. News 13's Mandy Martinez recently reached out to all 5 candidates for interviews. You can see those interviews and learn more about the candidates online right now at WBTW.com. Election Day is November the 2nd. The polls will be open from 7 until 7. Anyone who's in line, though, at 7 p.m. will be allowed to vote. We have election results that night on News 13 at 11, including reaction. We thank you so much for tuning in to WBTW News 13's 2021 Myrtle Beach mayoral debate. Have a great night.